3 Years in the Art of William Saroyan by Chris Garcia. Recently, we were lucky enough to acquire an excellent Saroyan painting titled Number 1, August 21, 1962, SF. It is a remarkable piece, even when compared with other pieces done at nearly the same time. Two in particular, Number 9, January 20, 1960, SF Sun, and Number 2, Feb 15, 1963, SF, are excellent examples of Saroyan's output at the time, and the difference between these three works is notable. Let us start with the 1960 entry. Here is the earliest William Saroyan painting in our collection. He is working fairly constrained. Saroyan's line work never approaches the edge of the paper, and the tangle of gestural lines feels like a series of knots. The sensation of the work is not orderly, but it does feel cohesive, as if the lines are gathering towards one another in a controlled coalescence. The colors are warms, pinks, oranges, lilacs. This technique is obvious. He loads his brush and starts with the path of the paint, continuing until the line has become too light, then starting with a new color. I trace this to 8 different distinct lines, though there may have been more. This technique does something strange. The heavier portion of the line appears to come forward towards the viewer, while the lighter portion of the line seems to recede, though, as they are drawn after the initial lines, they are presenting a sort of atemporal sense of layering, in which the earliest painted portions are the ones coming at the viewer, as the lines that cross over these portions appear to be in the background. Moving forward to 1963, we can see some significant difference. The first is the variation in line size and intensity. His line in 1960 seems narrower, more interested in luing continuity of flow. In 1963, these are more chaotic, and not merely in the line and forms they create, but in color choices. Here are the warm oranges again, but they are layered with heavy black, teal, and greens. The 1960 piece shows little interaction between the paint of the various lines, while in 1963, there is significant bleed, the watercolor coursing through the crossing lines, as if he were painting much more quickly than he had 3 years before. In general, the lines are much shorter, some simply seeming to end after forming a single small gesture. The lines are less constrained across the page as well. His work runs towards the border far more than previously. This is a hallmark of the abstract expressionists. They wanted their work to spread across and ultimately beyond the edges of the canvas, or in this case, the paper. The layering seems more invasive than cohesive, and this gives the painting a sense of darker intention. What neither of these seem to show is any sort of pre-planning. These are momentary, improvisational. This is another abstract expressionist trait, and even when some of the Ab-X painters would sketch out their works, such as Franz Kline, the idea was to still create an image that felt of the moment of creation. Now, in the middle of these would be the August 1962 painting. Looking at the level and kind of change in technique and presentation between the 1960 and 63 painting, I would have expected something that was experimenting in the areas of expansiveness. But instead, this is a work that is, if anything, far more constrained and controlled than the others. The piece seems to begin with 5 or 6 lines, all in green, in a looser fashion. Then, using the gap between these intersections, he filled the cells with tightly wound line forms in blue, greens, and reds. The result is a piece that is much denser and feels more like pieces he did in 1963, such as Fresno from the Airplane or Watermelon, where he colored in cells formed by his line work intersections. These, though, are more what you would expect from an abstract painter working somewhat figuratively. In Number 1, August 21, 1962 SF, it is not color that is the draw, but the very tightly wound forms. The other major difference, and one that is striking, is that looking at the 1962 painting, it is clear that he sketched it prior to painting. None of our other Saroyan paintings show that level of pre-planning. The style of the drawing beneath the watercolor is exactly like his drawings in the back of books and on scraps of paper, dating back to the late 1940s. These drawings are skeletal and loose. In the 1962 piece, he follows the lines almost exactly, and they define only the major lines, not the forms within the cells. There are two areas, one at the top and one at the bottom of the painting, where he has done incredibly busy line work as a form of border. Unlike the 1960 painting, he has clearly delineated the area of the painting. And like the 1963 painting, he has brought the imagery far closer to the edge of the paper. These, though, are more angular than he typically drew, rectangles and corners instead of loops. These were also clearly painted after the central body of the piece had been painted, as they seem to respect the lines originally done in pen and then traced in watercolor. Perhaps he had made a conscious effort to extend the paintings towards the edge of the paper after his initial painting. As a painter, Saroyan had a distinct style that dwelled in the area of gestural expressionism, of the kind that artists like Clifford Still and Mark Tobey were well known for. He did some figurative works, mostly pencil or ballpoint pen works of faces, but the vast majority of his mature pieces are of the style of these three. The works are fascinating, and while they are little seen, they have been the focus of a few exhibitions in the years since Saroyan's passing. Forever Saroyan is lucky to have many of Saroyan's artworks, including watercolors as well as pen and pencil drawings dating back to the early 1930s. Thanks for listening to The Collection of Forever Saroyan. I'm Chris Garcia. See you next week.